If you want better results in your business, especially a consulting business or a services business, you have to reach the right customers. The problem I often find is the internet invites us to reach out to anybody, and then very often the signals in the environment point us towards people who can't buy. So I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. Let's talk a little bit about some of the places you want to look for customers, as well as how to understand some of the tools that we use to understand whether or not we're reaching buyers. So I'll be completely transparent here. My websites have gone from targeting electrical contractors to high income professionals to high net worth families to business owners and executives. And I have a number of different websites targeting kind of segments in one big audience. So my clients tend to be knowledge workers who have some level of expertise, which has some kind of market value. So you're a subject matter expert. Maybe you can help people get high income jobs. Maybe you can help folks solve computer problems. Maybe you can help folks solve project management problems. And you have a high income because of this, because the leverage that's there helping someone solve a specific problem, especially when you're solving it with information or coaching or some kind of short term consultation, the value is very high. So, for example, I claim to have helped my clients create more than $300 million in new business. I've helped them create almost $800,000 in cost savings. Altogether, that's like $1 billion of value. It sounds like a lot. However, the clients I did this with were like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Merrill Lynch. I've worked for four or five of the main financial services firms. I've worked for healthcare, four or five of the big healthcare firms. Now, these are short term contracts. Now, some private clients I've been with for 5 or 10 years, and that range varies. But I've had hundreds of short term contracts over the years, maybe even thousands if you include the mid sized businesses and the small businesses. Sometimes they're 3 months, sometimes it's 18 months, sometimes they're overlapping contracts. But here's my point to that audience who has $1 trillion in transactions a day, for example, the financial services firms, who have $1 billion valuations, for me in a 20-year period to create almost $1 billion in value for my client is not at all difficult. If I was onesie twosie serving, business opportunity people who $50 transaction is a lot of money to them, then it would be harder to demonstrate the value delivered. Now, here's the challenge. Even a couple $100 million in value created over any period of time is quite confusing to a typical audience. Also, inflation adjusted numbers is what I use in my numbers, inflates the overvalue. That's what inflation does. So I'm big on current value of money, future value of money. That's why you'll see in parentheses the year. So if I claim that I made $98,000 a year in 1996 running a business of my own, and here's the techniques that I used, that $98,000 a year is going to have a little parentheses next to it. It's going to say 1996 because it's $1996. But in 1998, when I was still making $98,000 a year because my salary didn't keep up with inflation. See, I have as many problems as you guys have. The difference is that I have a library of materials that I've used to solve those problems, but I don't inflation adjust to that 1998 from 1996 because in 1998 I made in 1998 dollars $98,000. Now, in today's dollars, that's a lot of money. It's 150 or something $1,000. My point being is that the typical audience that can pay big dollars for consulting services, for coaching, for actual do it for them services that are worth taking time and effort, 5-figure contracts, are not necessarily out running around on the internet. So I'm going to get a lot of people who don't really have a real business. They may have knowledge and expertise and I can help them transition into a business or I can help them improve their business, but I'm talking about college students who are just working on a paper. So I actually had to put up barriers to entry to prevent people from contacting me. Basically, sift and sort. Jeff Paul talks about this. You want to sift and sort. There's actually quite a few marketers talk about it. You want to have that website out there, and you want to get traffic. And we're going to talk a little bit about the tools here in a second. You want to get traffic, and then you want to sift and sort that traffic so that you get only highly qualified individuals to reach out to you. Now, that means that periodically I'll send a message to my list because I don't think I'm reaching everybody I should. There are like 4,000 or 5,000 people a month who listen to the podcasts. I've written 1,300 articles in the last 23 years, 357 podcasts. I really think I should be more popular by now. But the truth is, again, if you're dealing with clients that are in the top 10% of incomes, those clients are 1 out of every 10 available in the marketplace, or 10 out of every 100 available in the marketplace. And many high producers are productive and not online, and that's how they're able to be more productive. So I have to reach them in other medium. So for example, I need to get their email address first, then their telephone number as quickly as possible, and then from their telephone number some kind of postal address so that I can send them a postcard or a letter. How do I get the postal address? Well, there's different ways of doing it. Ultimately, they order products or services from the website, and now I've got a postal address. Now let's talk about tools. We use Google Analytics for the tools, Google Tag Manager, a lot of different tools basically. But the key is I want tools that can give me audience demographics. So the YouTube channel, for example, something weird happened in the last 28 days. I have 0 people from age 55 to 65 years old on the YouTube channel now. Now, that's concerning to me because many high-income professionals who have the experience to be subject matter experts, who have the seniority in the business to be an executive role, are often age 45 to 70. And so suddenly, the YouTube channel has lost that audience. And I'm going to pull it up real quick because there was a weird thing that happened where the audience started picking up younger people, 25 to about 35 years old. Here's the concern, and this is why I'm bringing this up. This is very important. If I look at my stats the wrong way, and so this is in YouTube Studio under the Analytics Audience tab, and I'm looking at this, and my 55 to 64-year-old group is at 0%. My 45 to 54-year-old group is at 9%. These areas used to be like 70% of my traffic. So from age 45 to 65 is my typical customer. They tend to be male or female executives. They tend to be business owners. They tend to have a strong knowledge base. So for a copywriter, you actually can write copy. You're not trying to get into copy business. You actually write copy for yourself or you write it for your clients. And so you tend to be at least 35 years old. But Google Analytics is still okay. But my YouTube Studio is telling me that I got 53% of my traffic is age 25 to 35. That's a different customer than somebody who's 55 to 64. Somebody who's 55 to 64, we're talking about career development. We're talking about, how are they? Their pain point is retirement. But somebody who's 25 to 34 is just starting out. We're talking about access. They got a lot of time on their hand. They can go and do things by hand rather than hiring people. If I said, oh my gosh, I'm reaching this other market and I changed my marketing, and this is what I've done in the past and it's screwed me over so many times. If I adapt my marketing for the audience I'm reaching, because a tool told me that that's the audience I'm reaching, then I'm missing out on the actual buyers. Okay, because somebody who's going for a salary coaching, is working at a Fortune 500 company, they're a senior level position. They may not yet be vice president. The transition from the salary they have to the salary they want is maybe the getting vice president or changing a job role that has a higher bonus percentage. Maybe going from individual contributor to manager to director. That's not a 35-year-old. That's not a 25-year-old. That's somebody who's been in the business for a while. So what do I do about this? Well, I constantly have to go back to my content and make sure I'm targeting an audience that can buy. So I don't save a company $100 million, or when we do risk management, help them avoid $100 million in fines or risk for a company who's never even got $1 million fine. I worked for Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo had billions of dollars in fines. If I can help them avoid a risk by solving problems in their organization, the numbers are in the hundreds of millions of dollars, the $500 million. That is, of course, a notch on my belt in the sense of accomplishment, because it's like small teams, so everybody on the team gets the notch. But the if I'm leading the team, or if I'm a major contributor on the team, I can take credit for that. I can build that as my endorsement. Now, Fortune 100 companies don't endorse individuals. In fact, they'd probably deny I was even valuable and eligible for rehire. But my point being is, focus on those who can purchase from you rather than those you can potentially attract online. As quickly as possible, get them offline. Okay? In social media, there's a lot of folks who aren't going to buy anything from anybody. So you have to get those folks offline as quickly as possible. You have to get them into your own personal newsletter, some kind of prospect newsletter. You have to start interacting with these individuals. It's a lot of time and effort on your part, but from the first consultant to ever walk out of a cave, if you're not face to face with buyers, you're not going to get customers. You're not going to be able to have clients. So you want to be very clear on your website who it is that you serve, and then you want to use the analytics tools to validate that you're serving the right people. Now, here's the challenge. If your website doesn't get a certain amount of traffic, or your uh, videos don't get a certain amount of traffic, or worse, the platform doesn't have very good analytics tools, the only way you can really figure out who these people are is to get them to give you their email address, phone number, or postal address. The email address can be ran up in a database and get a general demographics of your audience. The phone number gives you a zip code that gives you a general idea of their geographic location, which can help you with understanding their affluence, their socioeconomic position. Um, you can use the phone number plus the first three digits to narrow that down. And in their postal address, you've got a zip code. So all of this information can be used to validate records. I got a contact management system with like 4,500 records in it. And I'm constantly researching, studying, and cultivating the connections with each person on my list. And it does take time and effort on my part, but it's worth it. But I keep doing this on the list so that I can make sure I'm reaching the right people. I might have a video that goes viral, and I'm so excited about it. And there is that feeling that if I do another one of these, I'm going to get more views, and maybe more views will get me custom. No, if you get 3 views on a video, that's okay, as long as those 3 people are in your target demographic. And then, of course, we have to make an offer. And that way we can get them to raise their hand, because once they're on your list, you can do surveys. So the PS on this particular message I sent out here is PS, what's the biggest challenge you face? Reply to this message and I'll send you a related free gift. My goal is to delight you with measurable results. So so I constantly have these bounce back offers. In my reports, in my articles, in my materials, I want to call out the people who can take action and then interact with them in a way that makes it beneficial for them to either hire me as a consultant, to invest in my products, materials, courses, or other things, or at least give me enough information so that I can understand the emotional challenges of individuals in my target audience. Again, analytics suddenly, for some reason, magically start saying I have 0 people in my audience group for this channel. Now, this channel does skew a little bit lower seasonally. So this particular channel I'm looking at is the Prosperity Homestead channel, which is an aspect of being a wealthy individual or being an individual with a high income. Sometimes you want to own hunting lodges or farmland, or you want to own real estate as far as real estate development goes. And so this is an element of that I really need clients that have they're 45 and older because they have income to buy land. But seasonally, during the summer, my 25 to 34-year-old folks start kicking up, especially when the economy is bad, because they want to drop out of society. They want to not fight the grind. A lot of times, if wages are depressed, they want to just drop out, grow their own food, live on a farm, not deal with the to city life, that kind of thing. Now, I've also tied all my audience folks to Prism uh, audience segment categories, and I know a lot about my audience. In fact, I write books, I write reports on my audience, target audience, because I want to study their moves, their understanding. I want to know when these trends change, why they're changing. I do need to look into why this has changed to have zero. I should not have 0% 55 and older. That's off targeting. But again, you can be distracted by the tools, or the tools don't have enough data in order to be statistically accurate. This particular set of data is on, in a 28-day period, 2,600 unique viewers. And so um, that's only 72 returning viewers. So my retention rate is very poor. However, I don't want to retain everybody. I just want to retain the people in my target audience. And then if we have tools that tell us someone coming from an external platform to the internal platform. So, for example, my Rumble videos, Rumble has horrible analytics, but my Rumble videos have an extremely high value customer coming to me. So that somebody will click through on a description of a Rumble video, land on my website, and they'll either buy something or they'll opt in. See, that's a different customer. Rumble tends to be more conservative. YouTube tends to be more broad. YouTube has shadow banning. Rumble tends not to have shadow banning. Most of my videos from any channel of mine, even including the podcast, on Rumble get more impressions than they do elsewhere. But it has no analytics tools, so I can't tell if these are impressions from 13-year-olds, which fortunately on my Prosperity Homestead YouTube channel, my 13 to 17-year-old is zero, which is great. I don't want anybody on my site that's under 25, because they usually don't have any money, and you earn money serving people who already have money and helping them get more money. That's why the rich keep getting richer. So here's my takeaway: if you want to improve how you measure your marketing efforts, you can use these tools, but you can't be distracted by these tools if you know a certain audience is likely to have the money to buy, has the desire to purchase, and then also can take action. So a 25-year-old that can barely pay their rent is not going to pay $3,000 a month for a coaching service. It's just not going to happen. Now, they could have rich parents, they could have a trust fund, but then again, if they don't have their own money, they won't understand the value of cultivating an income stream or gaining a subject matter expertise that's relevant to a specific market. So somebody who's 25 years old might want to gain an expertise for their own ego, their own gratification. It doesn't necessarily mean it has value in the marketplace. 25-year-olds tend to be more aspirational than a 45-year-old. A 45-year-old knows all they've got is the knowledge and experience to this point. And the typical 45-year-old doesn't believe that knowledge and experience is worth very much because they're treated like garbage in the marketplace. And the only way for them to overcome that is to improve their marketing and communication skills. That's what Ad Briefings is doing. And then understanding their value and their critical thinking skills. That's what Inside Strategic Relations is doing. And then so on and so on. So within my own audience, I have segments that I make sure I'm serving specific topical interests. The takeaway is when these tools start showing you what else these people are looking at, you got to pay attention, because they might be looking at your content for entertainment and not for advice. And we have to change that. We don't adjust and be more entertaining. There's sometimes I wonder if I'm invisible and if nobody's seeing my content because I'm boring. And it could be because I do stress accountability, and folks don't want that on the internet. Um, they don't want that on the YouTube. They don't want that on Reddit. They don't want that on these channels. And then even on LinkedIn, typically high income professionals aren't hanging out on LinkedIn. They have jobs. They're ready and busy every day. In fact, do this exercise. Take a list of your past customers and go look them up on the internet. Try to find their Facebook page. Try to find their LinkedIn page. Try to find where they are online. And then notice how they use the medium. And what you'll find out is that most high value people are not hanging out on the internet unless they're marketers, or unless they're involved in the marketing of their business, or they're looking for entertainment. And then again, if you are trying to, you have to be somewhat entertaining. But if you try to be too entertaining, they're just going to come for the entertainment and they won't take the action to come to your website. Therefore, you won't have a click through, you won't have an increase in direct traffic, you won't have an opt in, you won't have an email address, you won't have the things that you need to actually measure. So I hope this is useful and gives you a better understanding that the tools are not that. There is no specific tool that is going to make your life better. It's capturing the leads and then capturing the sales, even if it's a small ticket transaction. And then from there, using marketing platforms and places you can send the list away. So, for example, if you have a list of emails, you can take that audience segment to Facebook or to Google pay-per-click, and then you can get more information about the people even without running a campaign. And now you have to say, okay, do these people match? And then you have to become an expert on that audience, which is sometimes easy because that audience is the past version of you. So somebody today who has subject matter expertise, if I'm selling to them before they have subject matter expertise, they're just an older version of themselves. And so I can ask questions of the existing audience to understand the older audience, and then I can build a pipeline to feed my current audience. I don't know. And that's probably getting complicated. If you want to do a one-on-one, if you want to have even a group coaching call, you want to visit www.adbriefings.co.uk. The group coaching calls, sometimes we have a bunch of people on the phone. Sometimes we have one or two people on the phone, but we can talk about these things. I usually do a quick introduction, maybe a 15-minute training on the theme of the call because I receive questions in advance. Again, that's a clue there too. Questions from your audience help you understand their needs and desires so that you can better serve them. And then when we get on the call, we just chat for 40 minutes or so and we talk about your needs. Depends on how many people are on the call. But again, this is how I'm understanding my audience better, and this is how you can get questions answered. And then if we want, sometimes I can go onto the screen and show you specific stuff. Uh, a lot of folks say, "Hey, Justin, you don't get a lot of traffic on your website. You don't get a lot of views on your videos. You're not doing it right." Well, that's the thing that they're missing. The 8% or the 10% that make it to the end of my videos, the 3% who opt in from a video, the people who behaviorally interact with my website, those are the people I'm writing content for. I'm not writing for the thousands. I'm not writing for the 99%. I'm writing for a very specific audience. I'm serving their very specific needs, and that is not going to be popular online. In fact, it gets me shadow banned all the time. Um, it gets me, demonetized. I haven't really been monetized on many platforms, but um, there are there is evidence that my videos are not getting reach, even when I knock off a popular video just to do a test. So let me just leave it at that. Focus on buyers, have a clear picture of those buyers, research and understand that buyer, leverage what you know about that buyer, and then use the tools to audit whether or not you're on track rather than to modify your direction. Because if you change direction all the time, it confuses the audience. And that's what I've done before. I've confused my audience because I've targeted high income professionals, uh, high net worth individuals. And even if you have like $50 million in the bank, you don't really believe you're a high net worth individual because you know of somebody that has $1 billion in the bank. Even when you have a $250,000 a year, you don't believe it's a high income because with taxes and living expenses, you don't actually have a lot of money left over. So I've shifted back and forth through the business owner and executive category because that's easier to define yourself. Don't let the analytics define your audience. Let your sales and your leads define your audience, and then market accordingly. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefings Copywriting Tips. With your questions, visit www.adbriefings.co.uk. Always looking forward to help you use words that sell, as well as understand the psychology and the business of copywriting.